Now friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. Having watched the original Star Wars film dozens of times, I sometimes forget how miraculous the Battle of Yavin 4 was for the Rebels. The odds were completely stacked against them. Kevin Spacey had a better chance of winning the Oscars this year than the Rebels had of destroying the Death Star. Now, I'm sure a lot of the Rebels knew the odds and marched bravely towards their certain death, but I'm also pretty sure someone would have had a contingency plan, a plan B to keep the rebellion alive. After all, the Rebel Alliance has had its fair share of close brushes with total destruction. So I decided to do a little bit of research to figure out what the Rebel Alliance was planning to do in case their small fleet failed to destroy the Death Star. The first thing that came up was a small story from the canon novel from a certain point of view. Before Leia even landed on Yavin 4 with the Death Star plans, Mon Mothma, the leader of the Alliance to restore the Republic, had already started carrying out her contingency plan. As much as she wanted to stay with the Rebels, she needed to make sure that the rebellion could survive Yavin 4 should things go wrong. So she took with her a package that contained all of the Rebels' cells, codes, stolen Imperial documents, and all other essential information that the Rebel Alliance would need in the future. Mon Mothma predicted that after the Death Star managed to destroy the Yavin 4, the remaining Rebel cells would scatter and go into hiding. She would have to go from system to system and gather the surviving cells and reform them into an alliance. But she thought it wouldn't be easy. After the destruction of Alderaan and Yavin 4, planetary governments and civilians would be wary of hiding rebels in their homes, especially rebels who just lost their main base and a huge percentage of their fighting force. There's no point backing a rebellion with no resources and no chance of winning. Mon Mothma had a series of safe houses that she could go to, along with 2 uninhabited planets that were off Imperial charts. But she decided that running off into the unknown would be pointless, and the rebellion would fade away with her. Instead, Mon Mothma decided the best course of action was for her to head to the center of the galaxy, to Coruscant. She realized that as long as the Emperor had the Death Star, the more resistance she put up, the more worlds will end up like Alderaan. She thought that her only course of action would be to turn herself in to the Emperor. He wouldn't kill her though, he would just jail her and humiliate her and make her renounce the rebellion. And that's sort of a fitting end for Mon Mothma. She was always the more practical, safe, and logical rebel leader. She disliked violence, high death counts, and realized that destroying the galaxy to win a war wasn't much of a victory at all. And her contingency plans showed that she thought a galaxy ruled by the Emperor is perhaps better than one where billions of more people die as a result of the Death Star. So if the Rebel Alliance lost Yavin 4, who else was left to fight the Empire? Well, if you think about it, not many rebels were actually on Yavin 4 when the Death Star came to attack it. You had a few key figures like General Dodonna, Princess Leia, and their staff, a few dozen pilots and maintenance crews, and a cowardly droid. But other than that, most of the Rebel Alliance was scattered across the galaxy. Admiral Akbar was sent to Yavin 4 after the battle with his fleet to evacuate the rebels, so he would have survived. Many rebel cells would have remained in hiding as well. Shortly after the Battle of Yavin, hundreds of rebel battle groups came out of hiding and started attacking Imperial strongholds in the mid-rim. The rebels' next course of action would be to show the galaxy that they could fight back. They would need a victory to increase morale so that they could eventually take out the Death Star. Despite how large and imposing the Death Star was, it still represented a target for the rebellion, something to unite them. It was the threat of the Death Star that really unified them and pushed them towards action. While the destruction of Yavin 4 would be demoralizing, no one really expected the rebels to win in that battle. They hardly had enough time to plan a strategy in the first place. For some in the rebellion, the people who died on Yavin 4 would become martyrs, another reason for the rebellion to continue their fight. So Mon Mothma was kind of wrong. She would technically still have an army and navy to command. Her first course of action really should be to figure out how to destroy the Death Star. Still remains the greatest threat to the free people of the galaxy, and every planet that is destroyed can be potentially blamed on the rebellion, which plays right into Tarkin's strategy. At the same time, a lot of civilians will become disgusted by the Empire's methods. For most Imperials, the Empire was a symbol of stability, prosperity, and order. So the destruction of an entire planet, especially one as important as Alderaan, is hard to justify. The attack on Alderaan was controversial not just with the civilian populace, but also within the Imperial military as well. Alderaan was a catalyst for many future defectors to the Rebel Alliance. So not all would be lost, and better yet, with the plans for the battle station in Rebel hands, they could still plan a proper attack on the station. While the Death Star was massive, it still was poorly protected and depended mostly on its size for safety. The Death Star didn't really even have a fleet protecting it most of the time. Whether it's sending another group of snub fighters to attack the exhaust vent or sending a Mon Calamari cruiser at hyperspace speed through the space station, the rebels would continue attacking the Death Star until it's destroyed. And should the Empire finally destroy the rebellion somehow, new rebels would just step up and take their place. An empire, especially one on the galactic scale, will never be able to appease every one of its subjects. Atrocities will happen, people will be oppressed, and they will rise up against the powers in control. So guys, that's what would have happened had the rebels lost at Yavin 4. There also is a really cool comic book that shows us what would have happened had Luke missed his shot on the Death Star. It's like an alternative history series. If you guys know what I'm talking about, please do link it for me because I couldn't find it and I do want to share it with everyone. It was a really cool series. And also don't forget to subscribe and like us on Facebook, and a special thanks to all you Patreon supporters out there. With your help and the help of all of our subscribers, we managed to chip in enough money to get an office for now, and this way me and British Ben and American Ben can work together on more collaborations, and hopefully our videos will also get better because of that. Well guys, thanks for joining us today. If you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.